Welcome to Spoiler Talk, where we talk spoilers. I'm Kieran, and this is Jax.
Hey.
This week we watched two films, Suspiria 1977 and Suspiria 2018. What did you think of Suspiria and Suspiria?
So, I'm going to start off by saying the main reason I thought about doing Suspiria is because last week we watched Dawn of the Dead, and I realized the soundtrack was by Goblin, and I was like, what the fuck? Goblin, they made the greatest soundtrack ever. The whole movie Suspiria in my memory is the soundtrack. It's mood, atmosphere, and feeling, and it's not all actually. When I watched it again, I was like, it's the color and music. Yeah. But I just love it so much. And I remember watching it when I was 15 and being just so blown away by all the things. So I was like, we should watch Suspiria. And I thought it'd be really fun to then watch the remake, because I hadn't seen it. I'd heard kind of interesting things. But yeah, so when I rewatched Suspiria, as soon as it started, and the do-do-do-do, and there's the music, all the things, I am immediately thrown back into this world and this age and this part of my life when I was like 15 to 18, where it's just like all this like extreme color, big, vibrant, fluorescent greens and reds, and just insane colors coming from places they shouldn't be coming from, and just this frenetic energy, and like I felt like it had this like homemade boiled feel where it feels really raw, and like just the energy and the passion and the feeling behind the movie, and it's all there still. I feel like the last 30 minutes gets real dated, and I was laughing at the movie and kind of was like, especially when the bat came in, I was like, oh my god.
I love the way she dealt with the bat, though. The best way I've ever seen anyone in a horror movie deal with the bat, and then
squish the fuck out of it, which turns really scary and kind of horrible. And it gets, but yeah, just in terms of like my first just overall feelings, I remember the film being like mood over film
for sure.
And this time I felt like it's just, to me, fascinating how I can just, like the movie just starts and I just was like, oh, the way I like to play with sound with cuts and edits, I feel like I got that from this movie. And there's going to be a movie we're hopefully going to do soon, Brain Dead, that has that same kind of energy and use of sound. It's like, it starts and she's like walking to at the train station, and then it cuts to a shot of the doors and like the outside world, the world she's about to enter, and the doors open. It's like dun dun dun, and it cuts back to her song. And then she like looks at the door and it opens, dun, 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 and it closes, and it's silence again. And then when she goes outside, it has a few shots, and then it's like the soundtrack just kicks in, and just I felt propelled, and the energy and just the way that did. There's a bit where the car's coming through, and just the light flickers through the trees and just has like a flicker, and the soundtrack just goes and it has that flick, and just I'm in. I'm so fucking in. I crave the movie so much. The strong greens and reds, and just the color, like the bit where they're all like having a sleepover in the hall, and she's like, I'm gonna turn the lights off, and then suddenly it's just like, and it's red everywhere, it's pure red. I was just like, I love so ecstatic at the style and the decision making, but I also love being able to watch it now as an adult, where I wasn't like just overwhelmed, because when I was a kid, everything's good. So these things were exceptionally good. But I never really had fun with them. Whereas I can watch this movie and be like, look at this scheme, look at these colors, look what they're doing. But also be like, what the fuck? Imagine being at school and the teachers are like, night, fluoro red. You'd be like, the fuck are we going to go to bed now? Turn into a fucking horror movie. Like, what the hell is this? And just the absurd, like, yeah, I think the movie is 70-80% the best thing ever. Like, one of the greatest films ever. And then there are a few moments, like the bat before it gets killed, where I was like, wow, that's just really stupid and dumb. Like, the one moment in the film that I felt was really like, I was suddenly like, oh, I feel like this has completely lost me. And it's got dated, and the style has maybe gone too much of herself. It's like, one of the ladies, she's getting chased, and suddenly she locked herself in this door, and then like, the knife comes through the door, and it's just like,
for ages. For
so long. And then like, my first thought was like, oh, she's going to grab it. She's going to be holding it down. And then like someone will come up from behind her or something. But no, she just like looks at this window, and like it still has the style. The window's yellow and it's by itself. But then there's like a comical like Jenga set of suitcases. And she's just like, no, more
As
like
soon
Tetris.
As
and
soon as
like,
she starts, I'm like, you're doing it wrong. You put the biggest one on the bottom, you've put the smallest one on the bottom. This thing is going to topple. And I was getting real frustrated. Yeah.
But it would have like, and then she's like climbing up, and I'm like, he doesn't look like he's trying. And then she gets to the thing, and then she goes to jump, and then she falls into a saw trap. And I was like, ah! And a part of me was like, oh, there's a bit too much writhing where I can see that everything is not barbed. But the impression is meant to be that it's cutting her. And so I'm like, I accept that.
I think a little bit more restraint in that scene would have made it a lot more effective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had the same issue with the dog biting sequence.
Yeah.
There was just like, it was holding on the neck, and I was like, oh! And then the next second I was like, oh no. You know what I mean? Like, it had that. And there was one other bit when like...
cut a bit quicker and you would have sold that.
Yeah, no. Every shot, just halve it. And you're like... Because I found the whole idea of that scene so amazing. Where you're like, what the fuck? Is that a statue? Is that statue coming to life? Oh no, the dog's just possessed. It's just such a trick of switcheroo.
So, just touching on one little technical aspect. There are two cuts of the 1977 version of Suspiria. Yeah. There's an Italian cut and a US cut. And we watched the Italian cut, which is the theatrical, full length, everything included. The US cut completely omits that scene.
The dog, old man scene.
So in the movie, you don't know what happened.
Oh.
So he disappears.
And then they just say he died.
It's unexplained what happened to him. Because I think later it's mentioned. She mentioned something.
Well, as soon as he dies, the next scene, she's just like, I can't believe that person got killed by a madman and now he got killed by his dog.
Yeah.
It's such a crazy place we live in.
Yeah. So you don't know, the audience doesn't know.
That. I don't. I love that scene so much, just in terms of like...
That's why I was really being a little bit more...
Yeah, you messaged me a few times. Because
I got to make sure all I saw was all of the violence has been stripped out. And I'm like, if one of us watches the US cut,
you might.
We're going to be watching a different movie if it's a horror film, you know? So
in terms of like gore, because it's a horror film, I suppose. I think it's really, for me, it's like, it's a mood piece. And I think it's most successful. And I think the reason it sticks with me in terms of like just being so inspirational with just like its just insane color scheme and its bombastic, like driving, scary, unsettling music is there's just like, I don't know, it's like it's like kind of a mystery and it's kind of this, but for me it's just like this unsettling, nervous feeling over it all. Like just the way everything's shot. Like there's a bit where she's just like, walking like, and the other dancers are going down the hall and they kind of just disappear and one of them kind of does a dance out of the way and then she's just kind of like walking down the hall and it's just shot a bit weird and then that like old kind of big lady and the little creepy kid just look at her and then she just holds the knife up and just goes shimmer and the lights go and you see like the dust in the air and she's just like oh and then she's just like oh and I'm just like,
you notice in that scene as well, as he turns the knife and it shines in her face, the kid smiles.
Yeah, he gets all
and then
weird.
As he turns it back, the smile disappears.
Oh, really?
Almost, the director was like, all right, as you turn the knife, you smile, and as you turn it back, your smile goes away. And it's like,
I just
very,
felt like,
very unsettling.
Just weird. Like, it just, so much of the film felt like, what? Like, I don't know, it just, like, there's a bit where they're swimming in the pool and the lady's trying to, like, be like, oh, give her a bit more information. And just, you know, coming up over this balcony and just looking down and just, I don't know, there's a bit where they're both talking and they're both, she's like, I'll show you the secret notes I have. They're going to figure out what's going on, all this stuff. And then they kind of, like, look around and it's just, like, I don't know, it just, the whole thing gives me this, like, vibe.
This pending sense of dread, almost.
Yeah, and I feel like, and so, okay,
impending, I should say.
Because I've always known that, like, because the first one, it's a mystery. And for me, it doesn't really feel like a mystery. I don't remember, like, it being a mystery as a kid. I just remember being really scared. Like, it really unsettled me, the music, the first time I watched it as a kid. It was like, I was like, this is a fucking intense movie. Whereas now it's kind of like really intense, but then, like, there's a bit where, like, a girl's nose starts to bleed, and I was like, that's a laughable effect. It's the most extreme, not real looking blood I've ever seen. It's like 10 times thicker than a nose.
Just like
it's the Italian style of blood at the time.
I think it might also, for sure, that it does seem like an Italian, but also just the time period. Like blood was a different color in the 70s.
100%. I just think that like this film has like a style that maybe it's just the director, because like I've watched two of his other films and I feel like they have the same like blood issue. Whereas like when I was like 17 or whatever, when I was watching, I was like, that sucks. It's so not real. Like I don't have any like.
There are cinematic shorthands that go with eras though. That you have to kind of like blood looks like what it does now in movies, which is still probably not quite what it looks like in real life. But if you did it exactly the way it looked in real life, people would be like, that doesn't look real.
Because you're used to what movies.
There's a cinematic shorthand that we have for blood now that's developed over decades and decades of filmmaking. Where in the 70s and then into the 80s, I feel like the vibrant red, and you never know, it might be just the nature of the film stock they were using that brought the saturation in the red out more. And like the film stock they used back then, it just really, really exaggerated the reds. And they were using the right reds on set, but you know, it can be something like that. And then the whole look for that era just looks a certain way just by nature of this like one random thing.
I was watching the old Suspiria as like I remember loving it. I remember being like, this is the fucking greatest movie ever. I just fucking love everything about it. But as I was watching it this time, there was like moments here and there where I was like, I think you're gonna hate the shit out of this movie.
Yeah?
Yeah, I was like, I think you'll like the soundtrack because I think that if you don't, everyone's got an entitled opinion, but you're fucking wrong.
Yeah.
It's a great soundtrack. It's fucking insane. But part of me was like, I'm not sure if the color schemes that are kind of out of control and wild are necessarily just like your jam. Whereas I feel like it's like literally my whole like, it was like Lord of the Rings when I was a kid, but then just after that I was getting into gore and crazy stuff. I just colored everything. I loved coloring all my films. I loved just being like, I'm going to go into a shed and the shed's just red. Yeah. And I'm going to go outside and it's green. And like, and it's so just like vibrant. And I just feel like the acting of the main chick, I thought she was really good, but parts of me were like, is she terrible? And am I just in with the movie? Because she's like, oh, I don't know why I'm so tired. And she's been drugged. She's like, and I was like, I'm buying it, but I'm also kind of like so close to being like, that's bad acting. But I kind of just, I don't know, something about it that just like, I was just in. But I was like, yeah, I was just watching and I'm like, maybe it was just me hoping that you hated it so we could yell at each other.
Well, so
what do you think?
You said something before the podcast which kind of ties into how I think about this. Yeah. You said that, you know, the mood that you go into watching a movie or what happened that day or all of these factors surrounding what's going on in your life affect how you digest the movie when you watch it. And I think that coming off of the movies we watched last week, and then watching this movie, because it's the same era of filmmaking as Dawn of the Dead, it's an Italian filmmaker like Dawn of the Dead. Like I was comparing a lot of things, and I just felt like it was so much better.
Then Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Like
for a second, I thought you were gonna say Dawn of the Dead. I'm like,
no, fuck no. You know how I feel. About
I know,
that.
and I was like, I don't want you to hate Suspiria that much.
So I was just like, this is how you make a movie. This is how you set your movie up. This is how you start a movie. This is, you know, like the checklist of things. All of the things that Dawn of the Dead didn't do that we were frustrated by, this movie's doing in the same era a year before. I think Dawn of the Dead was 78. And it's doing it really effectively. Like the horror movie classic opening that we get is really like it worked. I was like, all right. It's kind of not the traditional because there's a little bit of deviation at the start. Like she comes, other girl leaves, goes to the other place. Then you get your kind of horror opening
death scene.
Normally you would just get that and then movie starts and then she would rock up. So it was kind of intermingled, which fed into the plot later on, which I liked. I think the first time I watched it, I was getting a bit confused. A lot of the girls look very similar. And I was trying to track, and I'm like, is this the girl that was headed here? And what? And then it all kind of clicked. Once they started talking about what she saw, I was like, all right, that's her from here. And she saw the other person running, because you never get a connecting shot of her running through the woods. And I'm like,
it's a bit odd.
I think she actually seeing it, and then obviously she was seeing it all. But in the moment, I was like, "What's going on here? I'm not."
Because it's got a bit of a dreamlike thing, and I feel like the main character has a bit of that, like, I'm just a vessel walking through the film. Because she looks at it, and it's like, what the fuck? You're seeing a woman run through the woods,
looking like she's running for her life.
Actually, one of the things that I thought was so good in this film that has just this energy and this, I feel like it's just of the time though, maybe, but it's like when she's running, she's not like, she's just kind of like, like her body's moving in this kind of like, I don't know, just this weird way, and just everything about it, and the way the camera's like, she's like running and the camera kind of beats her, and it's like, oh, did she get, I don't know, it's like, I don't know, I just love all that stuff at the side. It's just so like emotional, but there's also part of me that's like, what the fuck, she didn't react at all. She just saw this woman running in the woods, coming from the place she knows she's going to.
Frantic at the intercom, and she lip read like a bunch of stuff she said, but didn't realize till later.
What I love is that, like, because we're watching it with subtitles on because it's in Italian, it's like the whole movie's got this mystery. What did she say? And at the start, I just read what she says. I think it's just such a fascinating like later on she's like, she was saying these words. I didn't know what she's saying. I'm like, but I know. Like, yeah, and then at the end she's like, oh, Iris, and like she says it, and she's like, oh, this is what she said, and then it cuts to a close up of her mouth, and she says it again. I'm like, I get it, but like, I read the subtitles an hour and 20 minutes ago. Like, I don't know. I just found that was a funny, like, I wouldn't imagine that there's those kind of things where you're like, the subtitles ruin. It reminds me of the fun fact that in The Thing, if you speak Norwegian or Swedish or whatever it is, that the people that come to the, you know, in The Thing, when the dog arrives, those guys chasing the dog, apparently, if you speak that language they speak, they're just like, it's the thing! It's a monster! It's the dog!
Oh,
and it's just like...
So the Norwegian people watched a completely different film to us. There's no suspense.
There's no suspense. The setup, it's the dog. Yeah, I don't know. It's just like, oh, that's funny. Like, you'd be so like, oh, I don't know. That just made me laugh that the subtitles kind of ruin the twist. But I wouldn't really say this movie's about plot, twist, or anything. It's kind of about a coven of witches, but for me, it's just like, it's just a creepy mood piece. Yeah. And I just feel so much as I'm watching it. I feel like, I don't know, I feel like everything's so strong. Like the bit where she's like, your dog bit the kid, and he gets up, he's like, how dare you? How dare you?
My dog's never hurt anyone.
Everything just gave me so much emotion, and I just felt so like, everything just hit me so strong. And then towards the last 25 minutes, I was a bit like...
Well, that's interesting you say that. So yeah, I would say I very much experienced this film. I mean, I don't have the nostalgia for it that you have, but I was like I was enjoying it. I love the cinematography.
So weird.
Performances didn't really... I wasn't really thinking too much about it because I think there's a lot of sensibilities from the 70s that, like we were talking about earlier, just how they edit things then, a lot of this movie feels like... I mean, you have to remember, there are probably things in this movie people have never seen before put to the screen. So when they show you a thing again and again and again, should you, watching the film, in 2020, that was made in 1977, be forgiving of those things or critical of those things? Do
you have an example?
Exactly what you brought up before, the thing coming up and opening the lock. That actually does have a purpose within the movie, which is like, maybe it was just, like, it's just scaring her through the window, basically. But there are other parts.
Oh, you're talking about pacing?
For sure, yeah.
Yeah. And the shots with the dog, the pacing there's like, with the actual effect.
All throughout the movie, even in the climactic end part in the room with the silhouette.
It happens twice.
And
it flashes twice? Is that kind of...
Way more than twice.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, maybe...
My memories of it being twice.
It's so long. It's the movie is like, stab this. Stab the silhouette. I'm like, fucking stab it! Stop looking. Because she's like, huh? The corpse? And the silhouette? Oh, yeah! A movie today... Stab it, yeah? Like, I know
before
this...
Before the silhouette. You've
but
implied it earlier.
Do I forgive that because we've never seen a crazy deformed witch that's invisible, that's taking corporeal form, that's taken her friends... Like, none of this...
The pacing, I think, is...
Like, there's not a lot of movies with this in it, and now we get horror movies every year with this crap.
You don't want it to be too, like... Yeah, I think that the change would be that if I felt like I love this movie, but it was too slow. Whereas I didn't think that. Like, for instance, the only bit that I generally was like, because I was sitting there just being like, oh, we've watched so much bad films recently. This is just gold to me. This is just like, I feel like I'm oozing enjoyment out of this. And then it got to that bit and I'm like, oh no, it just got shit out of nowhere. This is atrocious. I feel like this is the kind of schlocky, trash Italian horror film that people think all the films I liked in high school were. Right. When I'm like, oh, I love gore, I love this, that. People are like, you just like the trashy, schlocky nut. I'm like, nah, this is art. This is like, and then that bit's like, this is so long and meandering, and it's just, a woman in a room just screaming, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think that bit, you know, he's like, it's like, you think it's like, what is he doing? It doesn't look like he's trying. Yeah, but he's trapping her there.
To get her to go
to go into the saw trap. And I don't know, man.
That
got me so good because I was so kind of angry, and I was like,
Yeah.
she got up the fucking Jenga Tetris suitcases, she's jumped out, and then it's just like, and like does that classic old school, like just zoom in. What I love is this film has this like, or just like all films of that era, where it has a shot and then just kind of goes in a bit. Like there's a bit where someone dies and it just goes into her eye, like from here to here, and it's just, and it's like, and there's a bit where like all the worms fall out of the roof.
And then it just...
Oh yeah, and it's like... And you're like... Ah! But like, I just love that like insane music. But my favourite shot in the movie is like, there's just a girl, and she's got all the maggots in her hand. She's just like... Ah! And the camera's just like... Ah! And I'm just like... I just love it so much. It just reminded me of why I wanted to make films when I was in film school. Like, I just felt like... I'm not even in film school. When I was making stuff like in high school, just like on my like lunch breaks, like getting the camera and just being like, you know, we're over here, but then we go crazy and like, I don't know, just like having things move. There's a shot in Brain Dead, a zombie film, which is P. Jackson, 93. Should do it soon, but it's like, has this just like, this bit where he's like, looks at the character and just comes up at her. And it comes at it. This film had that same kind of momentum and movement when it like picked to go in on a lady and go as she screamed. It just felt so perfect and so... I felt so inspired watching this movie. And I feel like we're not done talking about this, but let's quickly go over to the remake. I hated it so much. I was so bored. And then I didn't realize why I hated it until the last 10 minutes goes, it's all red. It's all red and crazy. And I'm like, I hate this. It's all red and crazy now.
But it was like it seemed more like a digital grade.
Oh,
They
they didn't put gels on lights or do any of that stuff because you can see it. It just looked red. And that's my bread and butter. I was literally just watching a movie where they turn the lights off and I'm like, oh.
But the red works in the 77 Suspiria because there are also parts that aren't red. Like she will walk up to a window to hide and the light is completely white coming in and everything there. And then she has to step into the red. And the contrast and the tonal change and the color change and the like just... Even the window being illuminated, I'm like, all right, now I'm on edge. And then the music starts creeping up. And it's all mood, it's all atmosphere, it's all of these things working together that I think form like a really, really, really good cohesive package of like just classic filmmaking. I know why this movie is as popular as it is, even though I'd never heard of it before.
Yeah, right. So you've never heard of it.
But now, going online and having a look and seeing this director is highly regarded, and I'd not even heard his name. And he's the king of horror of that era, basically.
It's just like, I remember there's this one shot where it's just like...
Is it David Argento? Is that his name?
I think it's like Dario Argento, I think.
That sounds more Italian.
I was like... And it was so weird because I was like listening to a lot of the soundtrack, like by the soundtrack I mean the 6-minute Goblin song, I like the Suspiria song on YouTube, and then it just played over to this next song from I think it's Profondo Rosso or Profondo Rosso or something like that, and that's another film. I think that's just called like that just means red something in Italian, I think. But that soundtrack was playing, and I was just like, he has another film that's just like so good, but the sound I don't know. I really liked some of the stuff. Like it just.
Finish your thought.
I just feel like it's just it's like it's not just that it's just like red light like when it's just coming on and like when they're in the hall room and it's like, but it's more like just there were parts where like she'll be like I just remember this one bit with the lady with the curly hair that's the friend. She kind of like turns at one point and there's just the starkest green light on her. It's just beautiful thing, and then it would just. Then this white light appeared, and then she freaked out, and she's going all manic, she's like, oh, just freaking out, it's like, and then she opens the door, and the red seeps through, and it's how it's all blending together, and then it's like the next scene isn't just those same colours, it's like, and now we're in this blue thing, and then when she leaves the hotel at the end, it's just no colour, it's just flat, normal colours again, and I don't know, I just felt like so much of that was so awesome, and so, and the idea that the remake is like, it's like these guys like, I want to remake Suspiria. And it's like, you getting Goblin back? No. Okay. Gonna get someone to try and replicate Goblin's music? No.
You're gonna pay homage.
You're gonna do any kind of. You're gonna have a soundtrack. No, you're just gonna slap some song. There was a bit where a song just started playing. I'm like, is this just a song? Like just a song? And I just felt so like.
Well, that's what the end credits. It's just a song.
Right,
I didn't mind the song.
Oh no, I'm sure
but it's not anywhere near what the original.
It's just like a song. It just feels like the music in this, and it's just like okay. You don't have to use all the things that make Suspiria. I didn't realize until the movie finished, and I was just like looking at a few things. I was like, I'm just interested about some. I just wanted to know why this guy made this movie. It's like, don't call it Suspiria. Just have this movie be like, it's kind of weird how this is similar in the vaguest idea of School of Witches, Dance School of Witches. I didn't notice it as I was watching the movie, and then the last 20 minutes of New Suspiria, shit Suspiria, I'm gonna call it from now on. Shittier? No, I can't. Thought I was going to come up with a quick, clever thing. It doesn't matter. Shittier or whatever. But it's like, just fucking Suspiria. And then I was like Googling it and like just looking at some stuff being like, the director intentionally was like, I'm going to have like a winter bleak feel. I'm going to take out the colour. And then I just flipped through the movie again. I was like, that's why I hated it. It's not a dreary, bleak fucking nothing movie set in a fucking at the Berlin Wall, and then at the end it's like, oh my god, that old man had like a whole. It's just like, just felt so like, what the fuck? This is, I don't know. It's such a bleak color, nothing. But I didn't feel like I was watching this like bleak color. I don't know. Something like this. Everything I love about Suspiria, the soundtrack, the music, and the mood. There's none of that. And he's like specifically going, I want it without any color. I want it without any mood. I don't want music. It's like, what?
What did you like about the original
movie?
movie?
It felt like. What witches at a school? They don't. There's like.
Yeah. So
I'm just getting angry.
the one thing I'll say is that I finished Suspiria 77, and I would say my biggest complaint with the movie, and the biggest thought I had reaching the end of it was, I want more witch stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
I didn't. You know, at the end, she goes and confronts the big bad, and kills her. But all of the like underling witches, they get just nothing to do. And there's so much more, to me, they're the scary ones. All the shit going on in that other room is what I wanted her to go into that room.
Yeah.
I didn't want her to go into the old invisible, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then she walks back out and sees them all freaking out the room. And I'm like, go in! I want to see these people! Like the witches we've been kind of following, and they haven't given us really a lot. It's all
just because it's been mystery. It's been like, they? Is everyone who's...
And I love that component, but then we never get any... At the end, they're all dying. And then, my last thought in that movie is, I want more witches. Be careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
Because I got more witches.
All witches.
Don't want
witches from the start.
Yeah. Suspiria 2018, I felt like he watched it, had the same thought as me, but also didn't appreciate all the stuff I liked about it. I would have done what he did. Centered it more on the witches. Get into the mythology. Do all that interesting shit. There's some good stuff in there. There's... You know, he's exploring it.
Yeah, it gets pretty
But also, don't lose all of the great stuff that made the original... I mean, made it appealing. The color palette, the tone, the pace, all of it. The music, like you said, the whole thing comes together. And then we have this new movie, which just feels so... I gotta say as well, Suspiria 2018 begins... Chloe Grace Moretz is talking to her therapist, who's an old man. Yeah. And I'm like, what is with this terrible old man makeup?
Is it old man makeup?
Yes! It's Tilda Swinton.
Wait, what?
The old man is played by Tilda Swinton. Why? What? It distracted me. I can't believe you didn't know it was old man makeup.
I feel like a fucking idiot.
The old man makeup looks fantastic until the mouth starts moving, and then you can see the jaw not quite move with the... it's God. Like a Prometheus Guy Pearce.
Oh my God, really? That bad?
It's not that bad because they made him look like he was 140.
Yeah, they tried. So just looks stupid.
Whereas they just made Tilda Swinton look like, 60, 70 years old.
I guess my brain just...
But it sounded like Tilda Swinton. There was a female... Like, I could see she was changing her voice. Yeah, it fooled you, so maybe it's better than I'm giving it credit for. But for me, I found it very distracting. I didn't know... the whole movie I kept thinking, okay, there's going to be some big reveal. The witch is impersonating this therapist. I didn't know it was Tilda Swinton. All I knew was, okay, there's an old man in old man makeup. The voice seems a lot lower than it should. And all I thought was, it's either a witch in disguise or we're going to get a flashback and this actor will be younger in the flashback. And that's why they've made the actor old. There will be some purpose. There'll be some reason. There's no reason.
It's just a...
I think the only reason is...
Did you look into the reason at all?
I didn't look into the reason, but when you look at the cast list, the whole cast is female. Maybe that was the only reason.
That's the reason.
They just didn't want to cast one dude.
One dude, yeah. That's...
Which I'm fine with. And I mean, if you're going to get a chick to play a dude, you get Tilda Swinton.
Yeah,
I mean, that's just what you do. She's done it enough now that, you know, gender ambiguous
but it's
roles.
Such a weird idea to have to make her do two roles. I just feel like... I don't know. I feel like kind of annoyed I didn't notice because it's like
I'm surprised you didn't notice the makeup. Yeah.
I'm suddenly like, did I even watch the movie? I'm just like,
but that's the thing. It doesn't come into it.
I guess it just
so
didn't.
If you miss the makeup, then
it's the
you
idea,
wouldn't.
Why would they do that?
Yes.
So
why?
I just like. I feel like I don't know. I remember this kind of reminds me of a bit of tangent.
Yep.
It kind of reminded me of my inability to understand how I wanted to see Rogue One with a friend, and we saw it with like 5 friends. My brother and 2. Pardon me?
Tarkin?
Yeah, he didn't know, and because you know what, he hasn't seen Return of the Jedi. He's seen the first 4 and 5 a couple of times, mostly with me. But like, I remember watching 5 with him and his boyfriend once, and then they got up and left for 30 minutes, came back, and then at the end he's like, "That's the best one." I'm like, "You didn't watch the good bit. You fucking lost it, son of a bitch." What are you talking about? Yes, it is the best one. That's not the point. You know what I mean? So that's his, so he doesn't give a shit. Because who cares? He doesn't care. So he watched it, and it's like just some dude. He doesn't remember he's from the movie or anything. He's just a guy on a screen. Whereas when I see it, I'm like, that guy's dead. I know he's dead. So you can't trick me. So I'm immediately looking for it. And then it just falls apart immediately. Because like 1,000 things are going through my head before he even turns around. Because it's like an iconic actor playing, one of my most beloved like villain. You know what I mean? It's just all this stuff for me. But this is like, I don't know. I feel like, the way you're talking about it's like, I'm just like, you're saying this. I'm not like, oh shit, you're right. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah,
like,
why? There's no reason for it being.
To be fair though, sorry, just with the old man. To be fair though, my biggest thing with every time the old man was on screen is I was like, what is this movie? Go away. So maybe I just wasn't paying as much attention as I really thought I was to those scenes because I felt very much like it just cut to him. I feel like every time it cut to him, it was like in German as well, and I just felt like it was like felt so like, what is this? And then at the end of the movie, it's like zooming in on the love heart. I'm like, what the fuck? The movie was about this?
But it wasn't.
It wasn't.
I
felt
wanted
unearned.
to talk
I
about
was
that
so
last
angry. I was
shot.
so like, what the...
Because I knew before
Why
it
isn't
revealed it what it was doing because I remembered the shot earlier in the movie.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, they're going to do this. And then
you should be like, oh, this is coming back.
But they're doing it and I'm just like, why? Why are you doing this? What? Because... And I think I think that the best reasoning I can come up with is that so in the
sorry.
In the climax of the movie, it is revealed, and this is one part that I kind of found confusing, but after reading up on it, I can't really take anything else away from it than this. That the lead girl, played by Don Johnson's daughter.
I don't know who Don Johnson is.
You don't know who Don Johnson is?
Maybe I do.
You do.
Oh, okay.
From Miami, he's in the original Miami Vice. He was in Quentin Tarantino's Django Unchained. He was like the slave master.
Oh, he's awesome.
Yeah, Don Johnson.
Yeah,
he was in Knives Out.
Oh yeah,
he's huge.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Very
popular.
I
know it is.
That's so. Dakota Johnson is his daughter. 50 Shades of Grey girl.
Oh,
with
yes,
the
I haven't seen. Yeah.
With the red wig, I guess. It kind of looked like a wig, but I don't know.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
I feel like I wasn't watching this movie. Sometimes I actually think I'm watching when I sit on my bed from my computer. I've got a big nice 5K screen on my computer, so it's nice and it's big. But it's also like when I often sit and watch something it's on right there. And I'm like, oh, looking at everything. And then sometimes I watch something from and like one of the movies, I can't remember which one it was. I was like something came up and there was like words. I'm like, am I meant to have read those names under those photos? I'm too far away. I didn't read it.
Too bad movie.
Too bad movie. Fucking fuck you. It's like, I don't know. Maybe I'm literally thinking now. It's like I watched this whole thing in my bed all the way, which I often just don't do because I'm afraid I'm gonna get too comfy and fall asleep.
Yeah.
But I woke up and watched it, so I wasn't gonna fall asleep, and it was so fucking cold. It was so cold. So I didn't want to get out of bed, and I'm like literally being like, did I miss huge things like bad wigs and bad makeup? Because
it wasn't a bad enough
movies,
wig
though.
that I would. The makeup, I'm kind of surprised, but I'm also I can see how like I just really notice that stuff, and I find most people don't.
Yeah.
And you definitely notice it more than the average person does, but because it doesn't come into the plot at any point, and it just isn't relevant at all, I completely get how if the yeah,
it is blowing
you're
my
sitting
mind,
back
so.
in your bed and watching it from a distance.
I don't know. It's like
the
a man.
makeup.
It's an old man.
Exactly.
Why would I expect?
There's no
why would I
reason
even-
for being.
Yeah, I don't know.
So
I'm fascinated to look at it again though to see.
the climax of the film, our main character is revealed to be one of the 3 big bad witches. When the fuck did that happen? I don't
Out of
know.
the blue.
Doesn't matter. Let's at some point earlier in. Did it happen in the movie, or was she already that before coming into the
Must
place?
have been beforehand, and he's just like pretending not to be the whole time. It's an infiltration movie that has no interest in giving us that satisfying. Oh, she. You know, like if someone's siphoning their way in, and like if I explain the plot of like there's 3 witches, they're at war. These new students come. She becomes the favorite of one of these witches. Turns out she's the 3rd witch, and it's like. That's awesome. It is awesome. The idea of it. The movie's a fucking mess. It's about nothing except for like, I kind of like the themes of like expressing yourself and dance and I don't know. There was a bit where she's like talking about she's like this and dance, and that other girl's like, oh okay. And I like the idea of like this woman like when she comes down there, she's like, I'm going to be evil and stuff. I was like, oh my god. She's like accepted it. That's kind of fucked up. Like, it reminds me of another movie. Don't want to say it because I know you haven't seen it. But, it just reminded me of something where I was like, oh, I like the idea of this. And then she's like, twist. I gotcha. And she kills everyone. I'm like, what am I watching?
That's what I was getting to
so
before. There was the one idea that I saw tie into the old man character, which was that she walked around to 3 characters that had helped her in the movie and gave them like a peaceful death. Like I think she says, "What do you want?" to die. Yeah, and then she killed. Whereas the other people were just being eviscerated, and the people that I guess worked against her and wanted the other witch to win, she just mutilated, and then that one, and then they were trying to tie those themes together at the end of the film. With the witch going to the old man and telling the old man, your wife died, but because your wife was good and made friends, she didn't die alone. And there was also almost a through line between these 2 things in that. And a lot of people, there was a lot of discussion about the movie I saw online about it being about womanhood, motherhood, institutions of power becoming corrupted, all of these things. I didn't really get much of the motherhood stuff. I know her mother was there was a scene with her dying in a bed and it kept cutting back.
There was one bit of the movie I found where I was like, oh, that's where she, like the decrepit old lady. When it comes, it's like, it ends and it's like, it's all red now and it's just a totally different movie. We've got this old haggard lady. Because Suspiria
also Tilda Swinton.
Of course it is.
In the old, which is fine.
Yeah, it's fine. But I don't know. I guess it's it's just like, what is this, a fucking Adam Sandler movie?
Yeah.
It's like fucking
This is the Tilda Swinton equivalent of...
it just, I don't know. I don't know what about that is that's driving me insane. It's just like, it just doesn't need to be her, I guess. She was fantastic in this as well. Yeah. As soon as she appeared, I'm like, she's so good when they just need someone who they're just like, oh, I want this other word. Someone's like Tilda Swinton. She's like, yeah, nice.
I do want to say though that the dance sequence in the first act was pretty extraordinary.
The bit where she tears the other woman around, it's so good.
And it's horrific.
It's so fucked up.
She pisses herself and
disgusting.
like
it goes really far as well. Like it gets to the point where she's like got her whole body twisted and she's just like convulsing on the ground,
just bruised and like bloody.
And it's not like I don't know how I'm gonna phrase this. But I'm gonna try and make it sound. But it's like I feel like you could do that scene, and if someone pitched that scene to me and I was to shoot it, I would have fun with it, and I'd make it more of like a, like, you know, she'd twist and it would be like explosion of, and it would be like, I feel like I see how I'd probably do that, and there would be a bit more like, oh fuck, like this was just like, oh my god, like I wasn't like, oh god, I was just like, this is really slow, and I'm finding it really uncomfortable how you're moving the body, and but she's just not dying.
Well, they got. I noticed. So when I went on Wikipedia and looked at the cast list, that girl, her name didn't have like a hyperlink on it, and I'm like, oh. So I googled her, and she's like a professional Russian dancer, and I'm like, that's why you get that girl to do that scene, because she's so exceptional at contorting her body and twisting into these shapes.
Sometimes when you like see kind of a performance or a movement or you just see a character and you're like, how'd they like, and then you go, they just got like a real tall guy, they got the tallest man in the world, or they got like the one guy in the world who can like make his arms rip up behind.
Yeah.
I kind of love that when it's like, there's these people, there's like that guy who's like, oh, he's the skinniest man in the world or whatever, and he can contort his body, and he just has all these fucked up horror movies.
Or Terminator 2, they get the amputee for the leg part where he's like ice.
Oh, really?
You know when he turns into ice and like crumbles?
Yeah, I didn't know that's
they
what
got an
did.
amputee and like painted him to look like the T-1000. And then that's why that looks so great, because like the leg crushes.
It's actually
an amputee. Yeah.
I remember I can't remember what it is. It's like they chop off this guy's leg in this one movie, and they just got this guy just without a leg. I remember when I first heard that, I was just like, oh, that's such a genius.
You can do that?
Yeah, it's just such a ingenious way of like, I don't know, like
Getting around the effect.
Yeah, getting around to like how you don't show arms and legs and stuff. But like her performance, and I will say, the only thing I'd heard about this movie is Suspiria. So I watched the Red Letter Media thing on the remake, and I was watching it because I don't think I really had any interest in watching this remake, because I was like, old Suspiria is the best. Every time I love a movie from the 70s and 80s and they remake it, it's trash. Yeah. They're all trash. RoboCop, Total Recall, just all the things. I feel like every time it's always the same. They just miss the idea, or they reinvent it for the modern era, but then it loses all the things I want. Yeah, it's just classic. And so I was like, I'll never watch this movie. Fuck that shit. But the one thing that made me go, and it was one of the reasons I wanted to do it this week, and even watch the remake, is that like they said, or they were talking about it, and they started getting, and they were talking about, I was like, I'm just going to watch the whole thing, because I don't give a shit. And then they get to the contortion scene, and immediately I just see, like, she dances and the other girl gets thrown against the wall, and I just went, pause, I'm watching. That's awesome. That's awesome. I really think that's the only good bit in the movie. In terms of, like, that's an exceptional scene. I think if I felt the same way about this movie as I did about that scene, this is a much stronger movie. And it's just...
I really did find...
so good.
I found myself really... like, with the 77 Suspiria, I was paying attention the whole time. I would say the only part I felt like the movie got away from me is the very beginning, and I was just not tracking the characters properly, and then it all made perfect sense, and then I tracked it all the way through, and then at the end I was just like, would have liked a little bit more witches, but that was great, you know? And then the second one, the remake I should say, it's flat, kind of lifeless, kind of dull, feels more modern, but in all the worst ways. Yeah. And then there's this excellent, end of first act sequence, and I'm like, all right, there's hope here. There's hope. We're gonna get something
incredible.
Yeah, and I can't even. I mean, I watched the movie yesterday, and I can't really think of anything else. Like the whole end sequence just didn't do anything.
I've never been less.
Just kind of confused.
I've never.
Do you know what the movie feels like?
Yeah.
It feels like the same way I feel about like what's that weird? What's the dance that they do called?
In the movie?
Yeah, like what is that kind of dance called?
Interpretive
dance.
Interpretive dance.
This movie is how I feel about interpretive dance. That I respect the craft of this, but I don't really understand what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I don't really.
Do you mean that kind of like because in the dance they go like, and it's very like emotional.
I couldn't do that, and I respect that you're able to, but I don't really want to watch it.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, no, that's a pretty good way to put it. I think for some reason also they feel defensive of the dance, whereas I don't give a shit about. But it's like I think part of that is just like it's raw emotion and energy, and it's like animalistic, like, and there's something like primal. Like, there was a bit when they're all wearing the red lines, and they're all doing the dance. And you know what I actually thought? The movie was so underwhelming to me at that point that I remember they're all dancing, and I'm like, this is it. This is the final act. This is it. What the fuck? And then it got to the final act, and I was still just like, okay, there's more. I was getting angry. Oh, you know what I fucking hated? Act 1. And I was like, okay, I don't know. Then Act 2 came, and I was like, that's too quick. I know this is
too... Were there like 7 or something?
As soon as 6, I think. And maybe even an epilogue. But my brain just went, okay, there's 3 acts, or there's 5, or there's no acts. Alright, I'm going to calm myself or just get angry. It just made me so like... I don't know, I felt like it was like a movie that was stitched, like there was a whole movie and they kind of went, oh, this is so long and meandering. We need to like give it this kind of book feel so they don't...
Structure?
Yeah, we need to make it feel like we've structured this properly. Because it said like, I don't know when it did, but it had like an act 2, 3 or 4, somewhere in the middle, and they just had a shot of the old man doing something. I just remember being like, this is why you've done it. Because that's not an entry shot. You know, you've gone from here to here and that's nothing. It's just, you know what I mean? It's
okay.
And so I'm like... But you give me more of a sense of, oh, we're up to chapter 3 now. Ooh, you know what I mean?
Things are unfolding.
Yeah, but no, it's just stuff. And I felt like, and so to the point where like it came up, the movie ended, and I'm like, fantastic. And I was really excited to be able to get up and stop watching the movie and put on the soundtrack for the other movie and think about that movie and maybe, you know, have some fucking coffee and wake up properly. And I was just like... And then we're going to end, and then it's like, epilogue. And I was physically angry. I was like, I got up out of my bed, I clicked the thing, I'm like, how long's left? 10 minutes? Oh! And I made a coffee and I sat down, and then I just begrudgingly watched the rest. Like, that's how I felt at the end. And it's like, the end is like witches doing witch rituals and exploding heads, and she summons a demon, is like, I got you on the witch, bitch, and she fucking kills everyone with a demon
like
thing.
Death, yeah, some kind of...
But I felt nothing. It reminded me of Evil Dead remake. Have you seen any of those?
I've only seen the remake.
You know at the end where it's just like, it's raining blood.
Yeah,
She's a goddamn... It's just like, this is just too much.
Yeah.
Whereas like the end of the original... Not the original Evil Dead. The end of Evil Dead 2 is it's so much. It's so stupid and insane. But it's so like... Man, that's how you end a movie. There was something so annoying to me that like, he's remaking a movie and his whole thing is making it bleak. And then he's like, but the final act, it'll be worth it. They'll be like watching this thing and then it'll get there and it'll be blood soaked and crazy. Whereas I felt like, okay, if you're having this bleak, grey feel to the movie, I'd love to see that visual be splattered with some blood at the end. You know, like if the whole film was white and black, like in grey and stuff, then you have this big, grand, grey, nothing room. And then by the end of the scene, it's mostly red. But then if you just put a red filter, like over the back of everything, the red's not popping. Like the heads were exploding, but I was like, is that a good effect or is that CGI? I can't even tell. Like she splits the head open of the woman, and I'm like, why for one is she turning? Like there was so much like she's like arrives, and then Tilda Swinton's like, I'm not okay with this. I'm like, one, what's happening? 2, she half decapitates her at the back, and there's like, I think that if this like if we're into it, I'd be like, how crazy was that? Instead of splitting her neck here, she split it from the back. Like, just weird decisions and choices. But it's like, I was just like, I just don't care. There's a bit later where she pulls the head up to try and like un-Pez dispenser it and things where I was like, I would love to do... I love that as an idea. But I was just so...
Bored by the rest of it.
I was so fucking bored, man, that I was just like... angry that I had to be watching this. I was like, I keep doing this.
The crazy part is that it feels like the movie is about so much more than the original, but it is so much less impact. Like there are there's Holocaust themes, and there's institutional power themes, and there's women
motherhood.
All of these things, but none of it ever really goes anywhere or has a payoff or feels like it has narrative cohesion. Or like that we. Like, the closest thing I get to that is when she goes to the old man right at the end and says, your wife didn't die alone because she made friends with these other people, which is basically what the witch did, going into the thing. And that's kind of something, but not... It's not enough to hinge the end of your movie on.
I don't think... Yeah, I felt that, like, at the end, when she's talking with the old man, I felt so just like...
Do you know?
So unearned.
I'm
so
only
baffled.
hooked in that point because I'm still convinced there is a payoff as to why this old man is in makeup.
The makeup.
And
Tilda
I'm
Swinton's
waiting.
just like, twist, I'm still
and
alive.
I'm like, oh, I get to recontextualize the whole movie and
Yeah.
maybe watch it again and I'll love it next
Yeah.
time. And no.
So my favorite aspect of the original is the soundtrack. And just something that I find kind of absurd, but a bit fun, but a bit... I don't know, I'm just interested to see where you come from. The whole movie is like a mystery. There's like a part, like an hour in where she's like, Susie, what do you know about witches? And the witches is dropped, and it blacks out. I love that it blacks out and then kind of unblacks out for a second. It's like, oh, witches, what the... Oh my God. And it's like, they've been holding that off. But in the soundtrack, they go, witches, 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 just all the time. And I think it's really fun, the idea that like, you've pitched your mystery movie. It's a whole mystery, but it's not really a mystery. So he's happy to like let the Goblin soundtrack, like let the artist just be like, we're just gonna say witches like a bunch, like you cool things. Like, yeah, it doesn't matter. It's just this feeling. It's this mood. And like, I just feel like part of what I think works so well about all of it is it's so weird and just everything about it. It just feels like I'm watching like this thing. This like, it just has so much personality. Like personality is the thing. It's like I see it and I'm just like, I just love to meet the guy who thought up this crazy shit and ask him, why'd you choose this? Why'd you do this? And if, I don't know, and this other movie felt like the actual opposite where I'm like, I don't care why he made any of the decisions he made. And
I'm actually with him on some of the decisions, but
the execution.
yeah, like more witches, cool. But so everything else, not cool.
Another thing that I thought was really interesting is like, Suspiria original is like a whole movie, and then suddenly she's like gets a phone call and she's like, I want to talk to you, and she then goes off to some like fucking totally different location, meets this like man who's like talking. It just feels like he's from a different movie, and he's chatting with her, and he's like, hey, I'll introduce you to this old man who knows everything about witches. He's like, what do you want to know about witches? And then it's just like a 5-minute exposition dump in the most nothing way where she's just like, what are witches? He's like, this is exactly what witches are. Witches are like, he says something like they're evil and bad and they're tricky.
It reminds me of a recent film with Ethan Hawke, where he finds like a box of old movies with people like Super 8 movies, and they're horror movies, and it's in the attic, and and then he calls Vincent D'Onofrio on like a Skype call, and then Vincent D'Onofrio explains the plot of the movie to him. It feels exactly like that in Suspiria, but I don't know why I forgive it more in Suspiria, but then in this new movie I'm like, what the fuck? Because he's like, it's the, what does he call it? The Bagul.
Yeah.
He's like, the bad creature in the movie you're in, Ethan Hawke, is called the Bagul. And I'm like, this isn't good.
Yeah, that sounds... But
it's actually not a terrible movie, but...
Is it called Bagul?
No, it's Ethan Hawke's in an attic. I don't know, I can't remember what...
That sounds awesome!
I
love the
remember
idea
what
of
it's
like, being like, oh, I've got this horror movie, but it's about a Hollywood actor, and it's Ethan Hawke, played by like Ted Danson. Like, I don't know, you know, like, who knows? But that's really funny though. You say like, you immediately like, I feel like already I'm like, that sounds like a movie that's...
It's the same scene.
It's the same.
It's the same.
He literally just goes, so witches are like this, and they do it for this reason because of this. He like just goes, and he's just like, they can do this and this. They can even kill people. And it's just like, what the fuck? And he's like, you don't believe in witches. She's like, I don't know. And it's like, what do you mean? Like, I feel like, I don't know. I just feel like it was all just a bit odd.
Yes.
But then, like, I also feel like at that point, because the movie's been playing all these things, it's kind of awesome that she's just suddenly like, oh, fuck, it's witches. You know what I mean? Like, I just like, it's like, what's going on? What witches is going on? Deal with that. And then she's like, we're going to deal with that, I guess.
You know, I gotta say, the ending of this film also reminded me a lot of the ending of Hereditary.
Oh, okay.
And I really felt like Hereditary didn't work for you, and we've had a few conversations about why it doesn't work. And I feel like everything you could say about Hereditary is kind of true of
this movie.
And for I mean, there's such wildly different
ending
movies.
Is easily the weakest for both films. I'll have to agree, like for sure. But I feel like, and I know that when I rewatch Hereditary, I'm gonna be like, I don't know what I was thinking, but I feel like just for me, that movie was like way more like open about like what was actually going on. I really felt like it was going to pull the rug out in the other way, whereas it just went full supernatural, which I feel like, you know, with this movie, it's like, yeah, have there be witches, have her be like, you know, silhouette, and she's like, pulls the silhouette, and she's like, fuck, she's not there, she's a witch. Then twist, she's still there.
Yeah.
I love that, like, this witch is like, just such a troll. She's like, I'll be here, and then she'll think, and then I won't be there. Twist, I'm still there. But she just sees through it, like, really.
And then it's like, how will I manifest to you? Or what appearance will I take? And then the door opens real, like, this witch has done this a few times.
Yeah, which is like, I love this part of my day. I love my day job. Yeah, I also think that when like, the witch herself, the visual, like, it's like caked on makeup where it's a bit too thick, where it's on top much, and it gives them this look. It is the Italian films of that era have the, like, there's this movie Zombie 2, or maybe just called Zombie, maybe it's called Zombie 2 in other regions, it doesn't matter. It's like, has the same, like, caked on, like, you know, they feel kind of a bit fatter and thicker, and it gives this kind of, like, just gives this vibe of, like, decrepitness, and it always has this peeled feeling that I feel like I could keep flecking it off, and just the skin would always be peeling different layers of colours of skin and pus. And I should watch this movie Demons, because my memory of it is really similar to just that visual of, like, when she appears and she's like close up to the eyes and the mouth. It's all just so extreme. It shows just enough where I'm like, oh, but like doesn't hold for so long where I'm like, oh no, the effect's falling down. Whereas like the dog biting and other effects in the movie kind of felt like the time period. Yeah, and now we're 30, 40 years on, it's kind of like, oh, you could shave off 7 seconds of the movie, it'd be a tighter movie.
I feel like we could, I know it's like a terrible thing to say, but I feel like I could edit this movie.
No,
you know what I mean?
No.
Like,
I know what you're going to say. It almost feels like sacrilege to say that.
Yeah.
But it's like...
I would never do it, but I feel like I could tweak it just a touch and like make it a little bit more effective.
Yeah,
by only trimming.
But like... It's fascinating as well, though, because I feel like it's not so slow where I'm like, no, we need to fix this scene, and then people will look at the movie and it's a 10-minute shorter movie. It's like, no, it's really like, it's like half a frame here and there, and I think that is just everything gets quicker. But not even, but see, it's not even that. It's more just like, there's like such great pacing with the dog and the old man scene, and there's like, it's like, cuts the statue's gone, and it's like, there's flying shadows, you're like, what's going on? And then it just holds on the dog for just a bit too long, and I'm like, and then the dog's on him, and I'm like, that's right, the dog got him. But then, because it's been so slow, I think you want it, I don't know, you want the effect to still like hit you, because there's so many, I feel like old films where the effect will sort of just hit you with like, holy fuck, like, look at that, because like, I don't know.
I think what this film does better than anything, and where it's like, it stands the test of time, is just a person walking down a hallway. I'm never more into Suspiria than when someone's just walking down a creepy hallway and there's a light coming through a door or a window and there's some unknown shit going on and I have no idea what's ahead. And probably the most into the film I was at any point is when she gets into the room and turns that flower on the thing, and I'm like, going, what's gonna be in there? You know, and that was the point I was in. And then when she finally gets in, it really illustrates the journey there is more important than the destination.
Oh yeah, this film is all like, the thing of it, rather than like, it's not about her killing the witch or anything. It's just kind of like, that just happens, I guess. Like, she's kind of lucky.
She has to get there.
Yeah.
That's what I'm terrified of.
I think the unknown in this is really clever. Like, and they play it.
Maybe the less witches help the film, ultimately. You know, the less you see of them, the less you know about them. I don't know. I guess you could do more.
I don't know if you want this film and the director who's making the film. I mean,
it's more the actors who played the witches and the creepy dude with the teeth and the little kid.
Yeah.
I just wanted more of all of it. I thought the actors were interesting.
Spooky unknown, and then once you know, maybe it's too much, because the one scene, once it's revealed, has the dialogue of, "I want the American girl dead. Yeah. Die. Die." And it's like, I don't know if the translation. I don't just that.
Mort.
Yeah, it's just so like, it was just so like, I get it. She's like, it's literally like, she's like, I am a bad witch in case someone was eavesdropping. Yeah. It just felt like a bit shit. Like, I was like, I'm like so in and on board, and like, you couldn't do anything wrong to me at that point.
It would have been better if she just said nothing. Yeah.
Yeah, or if she was just
over it.
She just cackled like one too many times. Like, I just felt like she was like, kill the American girl! Kill! Did you hear me out there? I said I need you to kill the American girl. We're witches! It just felt a bit like a scene there for her to be like, oh, witches! Yeah, yeah. Oh my god! I don't know though, because I feel like I love that scene though still, and I feel like I think that if we had more, it really wouldn't be what it is. It would be like a film with a plot and like story and things. It feels like everything that's there, like if there was more, it'd lose that like feeling. No, that's not true. What I really like as well is that first opening murder scene is bonkers. It's like, girl runs out, she's screaming the thing, she's running through the woods, then she goes to this house, the house is gorgeous, the apartment building or whatever. It's like just the little tiles on the thing, just the whole thing was just crazy. And then when she's actually alone and she's getting close there, and like the weirdest, hairiest arm just starts like strangling her, and she's pushing her, and she's just like, ah! And then the woman's like screaming, smashing on the door. I just felt, sometimes I find with like foreign films, like that, like because I can't hear like they'll be screaming like, I want to help, like just basic stuff, but like I'm just, the screams are just, I don't know. I found it, maybe I just like the Italian language, but it just felt so emotional. I felt like the performance was so strong. I was so overwhelmed by like these powerful moments, like when she's screaming and that woman's trying to get in. It's like, we don't know these people at all. The film's just started and I'm just so on edge. I'm so stressed. I'm so horrified by like, she's got like 7 things stabbed in her. Her fucking face is like got a giant glass.
Is that when the throat cut is too? Someone's throat gets cut in the movie and it's a close-up shot of like...
I thought that was a chest.
Was it?
It was definitely, I know exactly what you mean. It's like,
do you see the cut?
Start is like she gets stabbed a few times. It's like stabbed and she's like, whoa! But then it's like it cuts to a close-up of her heart and then this knife just goes into her heart.
There is that too. But
No, what you're talking about, it might be a throat, but I thought it was a stomach.
Maybe.
And it's just a close-up and it rips into
and you see the
gut. Yeah, that's very, I feel like, of the time of the year. It was just, I don't know, it reminds me of a lot of that stuff. It's just like the same as like when she died. I think it's that. It's a cut. And then it cuts like, zoom, right to her eyeball. And it's just so like, I don't know. I feel like... Very effective. Yeah, just so effective and cool and like, I don't know. I just think the difference to these movies is really like, one inspires me to be like, should I quit my job or should we make a movie tomorrow? And the other one makes me go like, nah. I don't know. It's just so like, I watched it today and I'm already just like, I feel like I could pick it apart, but I just can't be bothered. I can't be bothered thinking about the movie. I feel like...
I really am kind of... I keep trying to recall something to talk about in the new one, and I really feel like I've come to the end of my thoughts, which is it's mostly unpleasant to watch. It is not fulfilling in the end.
It's so confusing and odd.
The execution of one scene is really good, but nothing else in the film warrants its 2.5 hour runtime. 2.5 hours.
I reckon if this movie was 90 minutes. As long as the original?
Yeah, it's so tight, the original.
I think, yeah, and it's because it's like, and I feel like, I don't know, it's like you're taking a movie that's essentially all like feeling a mood and then being like, let's take all that away and have it go for an hour longer. I reckon you tighten it up, you make it bleak, and then if we hit that red soaked, like shoot it differently,
shoot it good.
Shoot it good, and then you're like, how fucked was that hour movie that was essentially all interpretive dance, and then the interpretive dance got gory? You know, I just feel like... Yeah. There was a scene where they were talking and she's like, I don't know, I can't remember because I felt so boring. It just disappeared out of my mind. Especially when like so recently compared to something it's just so like
visceral and pure and colourful and like
just
fills your imagination.
It's a beautiful fucking looking movie and it's just, and it says so little, but I feel like by doing that, I feel like it's like painting a canvas for me to then like go into a whole world. Whereas the other one was like, look at this bleak painting. Aren't you a bit like, ugh? One thing I think I kind of liked though, in New Suspiria, is that like, we see like the woman, she's twisted and mutilated, and you're like, fuck, and then like get the hooks in. I really like that scene.
Yeah, true.
It's like
and
one hook
carry
in,
her.
and it's like, oh, what are they doing? The second hook, and there's like this weird slow pleasure they're all taking. They're all like, here, look at my hook. There's a whole subplot with like the hook they're thrown in the water. Like, so much boring stuff. But that scene when the hook was introduced was like powerful and very like visceral with like, you know, a cow getting hooked up or whatever, and you know, they just pick up the meat and they drag it away. And then later it's revealed that they're like still alive or whatever, and they're living in this twisted. That's the scene I loved later as well. And it's like she's in the room or whatever, and then that thing's like, and it's like trying to crawl towards her, and the other one's like, oh, and it's like we've come to that like.
But then she left. I'm like, stay in this is the creepy.
This is the cool room.
Yeah.
It reminded me of like all the extra towelies in South Park where they're like, kill me, kill me. And it's like, I just feel like if you're doing that.
Alien Resurrection. Parodying Alien Resurrection.
Oh my god, is that the Kill Me? Is that the original Kill Me?
Yeah. It's a Sigourney Weaver, like alien hybrid clone in a room, and it's like, kill me. And then she flamethrowers it, and Ron Perlman's like, fucking waste ammo. Yeah.
So that's the third one?
Fourth.
Okay.
Alien 3 is David Fincher.
Yeah.
But he got
I thought Ron
5.
Perlman was in that one. That's why I'm just getting a bit confused. Is someone famous though in that?
Yeah, the guy from Game of Thrones, Tywin Lannister.
Yeah. Do you generally like witches in a movie? And with magic and witches and stuff, is there like, I'm just curious, is there like a type, like, I don't know, this type of witchcraft, I think like the way they both do it is so different, and I think the best aspect of New Suspiria that I don't think is really used at all, but I just the idea of it is that like, you know, she's dancing and she's like, I dance over here, and then that woman in the other room is like, wah, wah, and she's getting danced about the room, and she ruins her body dancing, and just I don't know, I was like, that's such a fascinating way to use the magic.
Yeah.
And then in the other one, it was like they don't really explain. It's way more vague.
Well,
and it's way more like a bat comes into a room and they hold up a knife and now she's all like drugged or whatever. Or they're just drugging her with drink. And,
I guess
it's like
the question you're asking is there a logic to the witches? You know, like a logic to time travel in a movie.
Yeah.
You know?
Do you think that really cares? Because I feel like just I don't know. I feel like I don't care at all with what they do. Like in Suspiria 1, the original, the builder is just like expository. We're just gonna, he's just like, she's like, what are witches? He's like, this is exactly what witches. He's not like, oh, I don't know, magic. And he's like, they're into the occult. They're always negative and evil. They're always doing it to get money. They're always doing it for
prosperity.
He just sums it up like, it's this.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you're saying like, how do I use this toaster? It's like this.
Yeah.
A to B. Whereas like I feel like witches in the other one it's like dance and we're all like, I don't know, motherhood.
And then she's like, someone even says when I first came here, you know, like everything went better. I got better sleep and stuff like that.
Is that in the new one?
I'm pretty sure.
I have no recollection of that.
It was like things went better for a while and then they got much worse.
Oh,
almost
okay.
like they give a little and then they start feeding off them.
Oh, cool.
And obviously
like
we're introduced
into
with Chloe Grace Moretz, and she's like frantic and crazy and like she's like, they took my hair and they, you know, did all this stuff.
Oh yeah.
So she's already gone through it all, and just before she ends up in that weird crypt thing, because that's her at the end and in the middle.
Yeah.
It's Kick-Ass Girl.
I love the bit at the end when it's like the haggard old lady and they're in the decrepit thing and it's all fucking ridiculous and terrible at that point. But she's like, oh, I'm evil and apparently Tilda Swinton. And she's just like doing her thing. And then she's like, I'm your mother now. I'm your mother. Kill your old mother. I was like, that's powerful. It should be a 90-minute movie. She shouldn't be new witch. She shouldn't then go, twist, I'm the witch king or whatever. I hate all that. What I would think is such a powerful, interesting movie would be this girl comes in and then one teacher is like, you know, loves her and then twisting her, and then she has to accept this new coven, this new family, this new mother, and literally, because it's magic and taking in life force and all that stuff, she has to fucking murder her mother. But you know what we then fucking need? 20 minutes to start with her fucking mum.
Yeah.
I don't know what you do. Maybe it's a scene, maybe it's flashbacks, but something so that when that happens, I'm like, fuck, and then I feel like at the end, because when she said that, I was like, whoa, that's that's really interesting. That cut to the house, I'm like, we've seen that house at some point, but I blacked it out because I hate this movie. Well, it's so nothing.
Earlier in the movie, I feel like that's where we're headed. Less to the mother death, you don't know that until they say it, but more in that she seems to be like have an affinity being around these witches and comfortable, and is like, you know, spending time with them. And I'm like, she's going to be a new witch. That's what this movie is.
Yeah.
It's not.
Because it is, but it is. It is that until she goes, twist! I'm the witch!
I was the witch the whole time.
I'm the most powerful witch. I also feel like, this movie was like, so there were like 3 witches in the other one, but only elusive, and only one of those witches was in Suspiria. And it's like, I'm pretty sure that director's made movies about those other 2 witches in other movies.
Oh.
Yeah.
Really? That's interesting.
Yeah, almost definitely. I'd love to Google it later and be like, that's just wrong. But that's been my brain. He's got 3 movies of those 3 witches. But you know what? Have a look at them. Have a watch them. Because I don't really care.
Yeah.
I feel like Suspiria is like, I mean, I could be wrong. I could watch those movies and be like, oh my God, Karen, they're the greatest things ever.
I would be interested to see. Yeah, the story.
I was actually something like, I should see them. I don't know what stopped me, but I feel like, I don't know. I just feel like everything about this, it's like, but I don't need more. I don't care about the other 2 witches. I don't give a fuck. I don't care about any of it. I just love I just love what I get in this thing. I love the visceral feeling of it.
Yeah.
And it just comes down to like, as soon as it started, I just remember like, oh my God, like, I forgot what this was, like, really, like.
It's more like, remember you watched My Neighbor Totoro, and you were like, there's no...
It's a mood piece!
Yeah, that's the same reason...
That works.
I love that movie, is why I love this movie.
That's a great comparison.
Neither particularly, like, pay off, although Suspiria does more so. Totoro kind of...
I feel like the ending of Totoro makes me go,
Yeah.
But hearing other people, like I remember my mum watched Totoro at some point and just told me about it. I just remember being like,
just ripped.
Sitting there being like, oh my God, like, that's, and then hearing you talk about it and then being like, that is the film I saw. It just didn't work for me.
For sure.
And as we said before, it could have been the mood I was in. Maybe if I went home today and watched it, like, you never know. But like, it's, I think it's, I don't know. I was just trying, is there any other films that you feel like you can think of that are just like no story? It's just all like mood piece. You're just there in that world doing that thing. None going to come into mind, but I'm sure there's like a whole genre almost of that, like, not plotless film, but
maybe like Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Have you seen that? Coen
I
Brothers
have,
film?
Yeah.
I really, that is such
the Homer's Odyssey or whatever, but it's like wacky, like, Western.
You can't, and they're just going through, and instead of the Cyclops, it's John Goodman, and he has an eye patch. Yeah.
It's like 3 Sexy Babes by a River or something, of the Sirens,
But I just love the feeling of that movie.
Yes,
I love
that's
the
a great
music.
example.
I love the color palette. I think that was one of the first digitally color graded films.
It's the first one, Because you saying that makes me go, I've heard that, definitely,
That is a movie that I just... But there's not really... like a character payoff or a plot point payoff, it's just like
these 3 guys going through.
Every time I put it on, I'm like, I love being in this world for 2 hours, and then I kind of, with those type of movies though, typically I kind of feel like when I reach the end, like a sense of like longing or sadness when they're over.
Interesting.
Which I didn't really get so much with Suspiria, I guess, because it feels so definitive. Actually, if any, it wraps up real quick,
Suspiria. Oh, well,
do you think it may be a little too quick? We could have had a little bit more breathing room at the end, because she kind of just like stab, run out the house, end. Yeah.
So almost definitely, but I do kind of love that. Like, she gets there, she's like, "I gotta kill the witch." Oh, the witch is gone, and then she's like, "Trick, it's not gone, got her." Witch is dead, and then she's like, "I'm gonna leave," and then she runs out of the building, and then she's a close up of the window on fire, and you see witches screams, and I'm like, fuck yeah. Witch is burned.
True.
Burn, witch, burn. I just felt like the simplicity of it for me was like, I don't know, man. This other movie said epilogue, and I literally was like,
no.
I'm going to stop watching this. I watched 2 hours and 20 minutes, but I'm going to get out of my freezing room, out of my bed, fucking put on clothes, put on a coffee, come back 5 minutes later, because I'm so frustrated by how long it is. So I don't know. You're probably right, but I just feel like...
No.
I just feel like it's concise.
It is.
There is something to be said though about just before that moment, and there is a lot of main characters we've been spending with, and the film does go like, because he goes, witches, covens. It's all about the head witch. It's like a serpent. Kill it. And it's like, okay. But that's almost, I think I don't know. I think if it was any longer though, it'd be like, you need to pay off those characters.
Yeah.
But because we don't really get, I don't know. It's like, part of me is like, is it almost getting to that Night King thing where you're like, don't make it about one dude.
Right. Yeah.
We're following the White Walkers all this. So don't make it one dude who you kill and then they're just gone. And that's what they do with the witches. It's like, head witch, all witches die. And they're like, we're witches, we're dying. It's madness. But like, it's like, would it be as good if we had more? Or would we be like, oh, we're just watching heads explode like in the other Suspiria? I can't believe so much gore and explosions of like, I literally can't think of another time I've been so... Because it's like, I'm not the gore head I was 5 years ago. But still, like, necks exploding and like, heads exploding and just... I just feel like that should be...
In the 2018 one?
Yeah, sorry, in the 2018 one at the end. Sorry, yeah, because it's kind of similar. It's like, in the 2018 one, I feel like... If you were to tell me I'd watch a movie that ends like that and I would hate it...
Or just... I think maybe...
Bored by it.
Yeah, indifference.
Indifferent,
which is worse than
crazy.
hate. Yeah.
Yes, no, I didn't hate it. I just didn't care.
I was like, all right.
Yeah, cool. I mean, also like,
do you know what?
Confusion.
The
like,
one
why
positive,
are this happening?
The one positive thought I had was, these dancers are doing a great job.
Oh, yes.
And that's what I felt the whole way through the
Great
movie. I'm
dancing.
like, they are giving their all, and I feel bad that I have to shit on this movie because they really are adding so much.
Oh, imagine if the dancing didn't look good. This would be the worst movie ever made.
Well,
the dancing's stunning.
The dancing doesn't look good in the original. And I don't care because everything else is great.
Part of me's like, when they dance
exactly.
in the original.
Exactly.
Oh, there's that one bit where everyone's dancing and she's like, oh, I'm so tired. Oh, miss, I need to calm down. And I just like... I love that actress. She's doing such a weird performance.
So at the end of the movie, those were the two thoughts I had. It was, I would have liked more witches and maybe do more with the dancing. Both things they do in the remake doesn't make a difference to making the movie better. You know? The two things where you go, you would add, like, if you look at that original, objectively, you go, all right, we're going to remake it. So we're going to get professional dancers. And we're really going to sell it, and we'll make some body horror stuff, and we'll do all that. Makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
More witch stuff. All of these ideas make sense, but then...
Everything is, like, good in theory.
Exactly. And then in practice, it's 2.5 hours of just meandering, boring, flat, grey crap.
Makes me so angry thinking, like, just reading that thing's like, I really want to give that grey, bleak winter feel. It's like...
So, any final thoughts on Suspiria? Or Suspiria?
Nah, bloody... One of them's good, one of them's shit. We've said it all.
Yeah. Do you think Suspiria 2018 is a better film if it just takes the aesthetic of the 77 one? And
so you give it the colours.
You give it the crazy colours, the crazy soundtrack, but you do everything the same?
Yeah, probably.
Do you think it works?
You'd have to do it well and not... Like, obviously, you'd have, like, a bit of that, like, oh, it's just doing the same thing. But I think that would just work. Like, if it just started... And she's like, I can't remember what the first scene is, but if it just like had a shot of whatever the first scene is, and the music was like, and it just was creeping in there, and it was maybe a bit different or like a
bit
modern,
more, yeah, exactly.
If it was just a modern thing, you'd be like, well, that makes sense. It's the modern day. I think it'd just be better, but also maybe I would just be like, what a shameless ripoff.
Yeah.
Why even bother? So I actually respect that he was so different, but then it was just he just went so different that it's like this is just
why.
Why? What's the point? And you're just making some shit nothing movie, but you've taken the name Suspiria, and now I just feel like...
Which doesn't even really have... I mean, I've asked a couple of people this week after watching it.
Like, it doesn't have like
nobody
name
knows.
recognition?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no. I mean, I only knew because like one of my media teachers in high school is just like prolific in all of that crazy, just that whole world of film and horror. And he was just like, you gotta watch this dude, watch these films. And I watched them and I was like, yeah, the greatest. And it's like, and it's like... But that's because I was lucky to have a teacher whose like favorite film was Evil Dead 2, and so it was my favorite film. So we went around the class and everyone's like, Fight Club, Reservoir Dogs, and he's like, I'm like, Evil Dead 2. He's like, what? Same, and we just and then he was showing all these movies, and so I feel like he exposed me to things that aren't the general public because I'm still I like watching certain things, but I'm still pretty like just see what you hear about really. I just it's just the original. It's everything about it. And it's like its date and everything. I don't care about any others. And I would not recommend the new one. I would recommend YouTubing distortion scene, and just watch that, because nothing before builds up more and everything after takes away. I think just watch that scene and be like...
But then you're the only person that I would recommend watch that scene that I know. So,
okay.
You know what I mean? Like, most people I know are going to be so put off by how horrific
it's
it
really
is.
fucked up, isn't it?
Yeah.
Maybe by itself, you'd just be like, what are you doing to me?
What?
Yeah, why
Yeah.
do you hate me? Yeah, actually.
Actually, maybe there are a few people I'm going to send this to. Spoiler Talk is produced by KCBN Studios and Space Kraken Media.